Cuban section of the tour starts with a 4-night stay in Havana, and during our time here we take a day trip to Pinar del Rio, tobacco capital of the world. We then travel to Cienfuegos via the infamous Bay of Pigs. We have 1 night here, and the next morning we leave for Trinidad, Cuba's glittering colonial jewel, for a 2-night stay. The next day we travel to Santa Clara and on to Kamaguay, suave art city in the centre of the island, for a 1-night stay. We then head south to Bayamo, the town that kick-started the Cuban independence movement. After a night here, we continue to the most southern part of the island, Santiago de Cuba, home of rum and the revolution. After a 3-night stay here, we take a short flight to Haiti on the island of Hispaniola. Our first day in Havana is an exciting one, as we explore the city with a combination of rare American classic cars and walking. We begin with Plaza de Armas, birthplace and heart of old Havana. Here we can browse vintage books and posters, and close by is Plaza De La Cathedral, where fortunes are told and salsa spills from beneath the arches. Made from blocks of coral cut from the ocean floor, the Cathedral of St. Christopher is a Cuban Baroque masterpiece. For 100 years it was the resting place of Christopher Columbus, who claimed Cuba for Spain in 1492. Another old-time square is Plaza de la San Francisco, where the beautiful bronze sculpture of La Conversación sits on a marble splint. It symbolises a reminder of the need for dialogue. Yet Cubans need little reminding of these simple pleasures. In a world that bows to the smartphone, this is a city where people walk with their heads held high. The streets of Havana have always been wonderfully free of advertising placards, and around every corner a surprising moment or a fiesta awaits. This is a country that taught the world how to move its hips. While the streets of Havana are the city's pulse, it's along the Malecon where its soul is found. Extending 8 kilometers along Havana's northern shores, this is where the city comes to meet romance and relaxation. At the Malecon's eastern end is the mouth of the Great Harbour at Port San Salvador. On the other side is Morro Castle. For centuries, these two have been the city's great guardians. All over Havana there are tributes to Cuba's political leaders, but there is none greater than at Plaza De La Revolution. Over 1 million people can gather here at any one time. Ernest Hemingway lived in Cuba for 30 years, and a visit to the Nobel laureate's house on the outskirts of Havana is fascinating. His home remains much the same as when Hemingway left the island in 1960. On one of the days we're in Havana, we take a day trip out to the mystical valley of Vinales and Pinar del Rio. Here, in this karst landscape, are the best tobacco farms in the world. Tobacco from the sale of cigars is one of Cuba's main exports. The seeds are sowed 30 centimeters apart, and they will take 3 months to reach maturity. The process of rolling, which takes several months, determines the quality of the cigar. After lunch with the farmer's family, we return to Havana.
De Alto Centro voy para Macané, llego a Puerto voy para Mayarí.
Love it!
The next day, we leave Havana for Cienfuegos via the Bay of Pigs.
Guajira, el son te llama a bailar, a gozar. Guajira, el son te llama a bailar.
Nicknamed Pearl of the South, UNESCO Cienfuegos is a French footprint in Cuba. An architectural marvel, it is rich in palaces, parks, churches, ironwork and theatres. And just when you think music in Cuba is about salsa, rumba or danzón, Cienfuegos proves everyone wrong, because this is home to the astonishing Cantores de Cienfuegos, an a cappella group that has a history of 60 years. The next morning, we depart for Trinidad, but on the way, we stop at Cuba's most revolutionary town, Santa Clara. Here in 1958, Che Guevara and 18 fellow rebels took on an army government train with a bulldozer and Molotov cocktails, and won. The Battle of Santa Clara brought an end to the revolution and cleared the way for a new president, Fidel Castro, who would steer Cuba's course for the next 50 years. But Santa Clara will always belong to Che. He is literally everywhere. From the town forged by revolution to one built on sugar, Trinidad de Cuba is surrounded by the Sierra Escambe.
Dos gardenias para ti, con ella quiero decir, te quiero, te adoro, mi vida.
It is one of the oldest and best preserved colonial settlements in the Caribbean, dating back to 1514. By the early 1800s, it was Cuba's wealthiest city, solely thanks to sugar. Plantation owners poured vast fortunes into plazas, churches and colonial mansions and filled them with opulent furniture.
A tu lado vivirán y se hablarán como cuando estás conmigo y hasta creerán.
Our hotel is in the center, overlooking beautiful Park Céspedes.
Pero si un atardecer.
While Trinidad is amazing during the day, it is intoxicating in the evening. The next morning, we leave Trinidad for Kamaguay via the Escambes. We swap our bus for Russian trucks that will take us onto the mountain trails. The Sierra de la Escambe is a protected landscape of outstanding beauty. During our hike with a naturalist guide, we discover numerous endemic species of flora and fauna, including Cuba's national flower, the mariposa.
que me mata.
This tropical rainforest is a paradise that is also home to various species of hummingbirds and breathtaking waterfalls.
A mi mulatón, no sé qué pasa por mí, no me puedo contener.
After lunch, we continue through to Kamaguay in the very centre of the island. We spend one night in this very surprising town of art, museums and music of a different genre. Everywhere we turn, we are treated to something special. Kamaguay, with its large squares and Plaza Mayor, is reminiscent of Andalusia, and it is the art city of Cuba. The most famous contemporary artist is Martha Jimenez, and her gallery and workshop is astounding.
No llores más. No llores más.
Perhaps even more breathtaking and inspirational is our visit to Ballet de Kamaguay.
Se fue con la intención de conocer lo nuevo.
The next day, we leave for Santiago de Cuba. After stopping in Bayamo, we continue to Santiago on the extreme southeast of the island. We have covered nearly 900 kilometers from Havana across the face of Cuba. Welcome to the city of the revolution. If Santa Clara belongs to Che, Santiago's father will always be Fidel. Our 3 nights in Santiago is spent here at the Melia Hotel. It's clean, comfortable and very modern. Flanked by the Sierra Maestra and the Carribean, Cuba's second largest city has a beautiful backdrop and enormous cultural and historical wealth. Because of its remote location, few tourists make it to the most authentic and unspoiled city on the island. During our time in Santiago, we see Morro Castle and trace the history of the Cuban Revolution, from Moncada Barracks, Finca Siboney, to Fidel's final resting place in Cementerio Santa Ifigenia. Unlike Jose Marti's tomb, Fidel has a simple grave marked with a bronze plaque. He is visited by 3,000 people a day. And the music scene in Santiago is amazing, constantly setting new genres for the whole island. And with infectious rhythms everywhere in Santiago, there is still time for travel directors to show their salsa steps. The next day, we take a 2-hour flight to Haiti on the island of Hispaniola. As soon as we arrive, we transfer to Jacmel on the Caribbean for 1 night, before continuing to the capital, Port-au-Prince, for 2 nights. We then take an exciting drive across Haiti from south to north for a 2-night stay in the northern capital, Cap Haitien. Leaving Haiti, we cross the border into the Dominican Republic and onto the capital, Santo Domingo, for the final 3 nights of the tour. When we arrive in Haiti, we make a 3-hour drive through the mountains to the beautiful French town of Jacmel on the Caribbean. Haiti's cultural treasure is an ideal introduction to the country. The city was originally founded in 1698, and the wrought iron New Orleans architecture is just part of Jacmel's pedigree. This is a town of arts and famous for its papier-mâché. Jacmel also hosts film and music festivals, as well as its own carnival. Our stay in Jacmel is spent at a beautiful Zivadia hotel overlooking the Caribbean. We leave for Port-au-Prince, arriving at our charming hotel in the afternoon and enjoying our first example of Haitian hospitality. Port-au-Prince, fascinating, exasperating, vibrant and mesmerising. We begin our exploration at the Iron Market, followed by the traditional markets.
This type as well, it have a kind of seed as well, and they make oil with the seed. This is Basili Freda. It's the face of the Catholic saint, but behind it, it is the Loire from Africa.
We see the artisan section of town and then head up through the multicoloured shanties that are reminiscent of South America for a bird's eye view of the city and the Caribbean. One of Port-au-Prince's most distinguishing features is the public transport. Haitians won't catch a bus unless it looks nice. This is beautiful bus art that can be found nowhere else. They are called tap-taps because when people want to get off, they simply tap and the bus stops. And travel directors do a little of their own tapping as we prepare for a rather special event. Voodoo in Haiti is a religion based on ancestral spirits and patron. It is very different to the negative impression some Westerners may have. To be invited to such a ceremony is fascinating and special. Early the next morning, we leave for Cap Haitien. We will reach the northern capital by mid-afternoon. We spend 2 nights in Cap Haitien, and we stay at the character French colonial hotel Roi de Christophe. Today, we visit one of the most symbolic fortresses in the world, Citadel La Ferriere, known simply by locals as La Citadelle. Construction began in 1805 by 20,000 labourers. It took 15 years. It was designed to protect Haiti from Napoleon, and 5,000 people could survive a siege with food and water for a year. With an armory of 50,000 cannonballs, with 4-metre wide and 31-metre high walls, this fortress is simply impregnable. La Citadel commands unparalleled views across the jungle-clad mountains and the ocean. Travel directors' visit here can only be described as epic. Today we leave for the border with the Dominican Republic. Over the last 100 years, Haiti is a country wrought with typhoons, earthquakes, floods and political turmoil. Its deck of cards have been tough, yet the country has an indomitable spirit and is utterly unique in the modern world. There are few border crossings where such stark contrasts of culture, language, economics and people are so apparent. The Haiti-Dominican Republic is such a border. Hispaniola is one island, but two incredibly different worlds. We reached Santo Domingo by mid-afternoon, and our 3 nights is spent in the Nicolas Obando Hotel, right in the heart of the historical city, or Zona Colonial. Made up of 3 stone houses, it dates back to 1502. And for our first night, we enjoy dinner in one of the hotel's beautiful courtyards. Soon after Columbus arrived on the island in 1492, Santo Domingo was founded. It is the oldest colonial city of the New World, and the site of the first hospital, cathedral and university in the Americas. Today, La Capital, as it's affectionately known, epitomizes the pulse of the Dominican Republic, where old and new converge seamlessly, from centuries-old architecture to glitzy shopping malls, art galleries and an electric nightlife. Cuba and Hispaniola is at once an exhilarating and thought-provoking journey, combining 2 amazing islands of the Caribbean and delving into wonderfully diverse cultures. And the last word from our lovable Peruvian.
Hello! This is Juan Carlos Yañez from Cusco in Peru. And I had the pleasure of leading a trip that had Haiti and Cuba as part of the itinerary. But now, Cuba and Hispaniola. I gotta be honest with you. You're not gonna like this trip. You're going to love it!